Hey everyone, I'm back, and this video I meant to make a few weeks, a week or two ago. A lot of information has come out, so I just want to say I wrote this script about a month ago, and a lot of the stuff that I was hoping Xbox would do, they ended up doing. But anyways, forgive my bad Photoshop skills. I was going to use ChatGPT for image creation, but I guess that's frowned upon in YouTube, and I'm still learning a lot of stuff, so it's not the best, but so let's get right into it. In this video, I'm going to talk about how Xbox could potentially win this next generation. When Asher Sharma, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, first took over, I was positive it was the end for Xbox because this was a lady, right, who came in and had no experience with gaming. I believe she worked for some retail companies before in a CEO aspect, but it was another suit coming into the gaming area, right? And these suits kind of ruined gaming. But I would say within her first month so far, she has changed my mind. She has brought back Halo as an exclusive, and I always thought that Microsoft opening up their exclusives to PlayStation, they got nothing really out of that besides, maybe some people on PlayStation would buy it. But exclusivity is what made consoles, at least back in my day. I'm talking about Xbox 360, PS3, right? You bought one because they had the exclusives you wanted to play. This just kind of felt like Xbox bowing down to PlayStation, admitting defeat. And while they, have been defeated, yes, they shouldn't bow down. They're taking away all their leverage. She's also bringing down the price of Game Pass, right? That was a big thing Phil Spencer did. He brought it up, and she brought it down to what he increased about like 50%. And she brought it down to I think like 25 or 22 for Ultimate. I don't know. I unsubscribed when Phil Spencer did that, and I never resubscribed. But that's another good thing she's done. And it seems like she's kicking studios into gear. I mean, I know nothing about game development. I'm just gonna say that. But I think it's unacceptable that we wait so long for instance, let's say my favorite game is Fallout. Fallout 4 came out when I was a junior in high school, and that was more than 10 years ago. And there hasn't been a Fallout since. There's been Fallout 76, but who asked for that, right? Elder Scrolls 6, we've been teased for that forever, and we're no closer to it than we were, what, 7 years ago when they had that, 30-second trailer? But I really feel like, she's telling these studios, like, hey, we're not going to focus on your passion projects anymore. We're going to do, what the fans want and what's going to sell, which I really appreciate it. So, as you know, the controversy going on with Sony discontinuing discs, I think now is the perfect time for Xbox to get the much needed win. And really, it comes down to one simple thing: Xbox include a disc drive in Project Helix. Guys, it's as simple as that. If they do this, I truly believe they could pull a win on Sony. Don't believe me? Let's take a look. There we go. Sorry, I'm getting used to the controls still. So first, we need to take a look at the competitive history between these two companies. Now, as I mentioned, when I was growing up, you didn't really switch off between consoles. You either were an Xbox kid or a PlayStation kid, and that really took off during the Xbox 360 and PS3 era, I would say. I still remember my first Xbox. It was the arcade edition. I got it for Christmas. It came with Lego Indiana Jones and Kung Fu Panda boxed in. It was the best thing ever. Prior to that, though, like many people, 160 million to be exact, we had a PS2 growing up. Uh, and in that first generation, Xbox did no chance in this generation. They only sold 24 million compared to 160 million for Sony. But for a new console, I wouldn't say that was too bad. And especially PlayStation was coming off of PS1, so they were, kind of feeling pretty hot. Xbox just kind of threw their hat in, and 24 million, I'd say it's a respectable number if I'm being, fair. Um, the next generation, though, is really where it gets interesting. So this would be, Sony's third PlayStation 3 and Xbox's second go in the market. And Xbox 360 dominated for a majority of this generation. And, Xbox 360 had the red ring. I forgot how many consoles that they took back, but I think, they lost millions, I'm pretty sure. But they fixed it all for free. They had their mistakes, and they led pretty much the entire generation up until the end. PlayStation, I think, came out too cocky in this generation. They were riding high on the previous generation. And if I remember correctly, PS3 was, I think, $600 compared to a 360 ranging from, 300 to 400, depending on what kind you got. When the dust settled, this 360 sold 84 to 85 million units compared to PS3's 87.4. Now, I know that is more, and I'm going to get to that. This was a substantial increase from the previous generation. Xbox is at an all-time high. Now, PS3, they really only came back towards the end of the generation. It was kind of already over. I think Xbox was already, moving on to the Xbox One. So Sony did come from behind and win it, but for a majority of that generation, the 360 was leading. So, the Xbox One. Right, now this is where Xbox got too cocky, I believe, or Microsoft, right? They're riding on the high from the 360. And the launch, I wish I knew how to put in clips in here, but the launch was just a disaster. I mean, the guy said, I forgot his name. I think Don Matrix. He was like, you don't like always online, then go get a 360. I mean, it was just, I'd say it was a PR nightmare. But one thing that was really the issue was they focused on TV and multimedia. So instead of appealing to the gamers, which were really supporting them, they tried to kind of, get everyone in. And I feel like they kind of put gamers on the back burner and were like, hey, let's make a multimedia unit. Let's, bring in as many people as we can. We'll get to the gamers later, which was a mistake. They put, so they had they focused on the multimedia, and they had the mandatory online check-ins, restrictions on used games, which we're going to get to in a minute, and the mandatory Kinect bundle. Now, to be fair, I didn't hate the Kinect. I have it for 360. I have it for Xbox One. I didn't hate it. I thought it was kind of cool back in the day where you could just be like, Xbox, turn on. It would turn on. But, I understand that added $100 to the bundle, and that was all you could get. And I bought the Xbox One was the first console I actually bought with my own money. I was in high school making $7.25 an hour, and I saved up all summer, and I got an Xbox. I couldn't afford the Kinect right away, so I just got the X. This was once they announced that they would make one without the Kinect, but I just got that one because I couldn't afford it. I think it was $400 compared to $500 maybe. But yeah, I didn't hate the Kinect. You can't really force it down people's throats. I understand that, but it would have been a cooler tie-in. Maybe it was more, kind of free. And then if you remember, PlayStation absolutely roasted Xbox with their launch showcasing how to share a game with friends, which was brutal. And I wish I could link clips because it was brutal. And that really set the tone, I think, for this generation. PS4 ended up selling 117.2 million units compared to Xbox One's 58 million. Xbox would never recover from this. Even with the current generation, they've sold about 35 million to PS5's 93.7. They've been living under this shadow ever since that day, and they've never really been able to crawl out. I think it's just a series of bad choices that they have made. I think if, at the same time, looking back, I think if Xbox waited a few years to push some of the stuff that they wanted to with Xbox One, I think it would have been all acceptable. Always online is just kind of standard these days. And that's just the way it is. Now, one thing I will say, I really like the snap feature on the Xbox One. For those of you who don't know, you could put Netflix in like the little corner, or YouTube or something. You could watch a movie in a little corner while playing your game. I think that was a really cool feature. They got rid of it because developers were complaining that it was taking up resources for games, I believe. But I really wish, consoles are just getting, more powerful nowadays. I feel like if they implemented it now, it'd be a small group of people that like it, but I would definitely be in that group. All right, hold on here. There we go. So, how does this all relate to this video? Well, I believe now, once again, Sony has become too cocky. Now it's just kind of back and forth with them. With the recent announcement of no longer supporting discs, it has many people in an uproar and is reminiscent of the Xbox One launch. And I'm comparing this to the restrictions on used games for Xbox, which, if you don't recall, you could not share a disc game with your friend. Once you put it in your console, it was linked to your console. And that means you couldn't resell it either. It was, a terrible decision, and I'm glad they didn't go through with it. But even worse, really, Sony, they won't support any type of used media. One thing I've always appreciated about Xbox is the backwards compatibility too. I can download games still where Sony requires you to stream them. Now, in terms of backwards compatibility, Xbox One blows Sony out of the water. I think it's ridiculous that I can play Forza Horizon 1 or, Forza 3 on my Xbox 360, but I cannot play Gran Turismo 5 or Gran Turismo 6 on my PlayStation 5. I think you can play Gran Turismo Sport. I'm not sure. But Sony they're not really there backwards compatibility wise. And I think if you're getting rid of discs, you gotta be somewhere with backwards compatibility to make it kind of fair. So, wrong slide. So now that is out of the picture, I want to look at the studios owned by both companies because I think this is going to play a big part in their success now too. I think if Xbox can pull off some excellent exclusives, I believe it will bring more people to Xbox. And if they support other stores, like they're talking about for Helix, that would be an even bigger boost. Because the problem right now, guys, is if Sony doesn't support discs, that means they control the market completely, right? So if they want to have a game sale, they're going to have a game sale. But if they don't, they're not going to, right? And you can't go to Best Buy, Amazon, Target, or, GameStop or your local used game store and find these games. I mean, there are so many games I never would have played if I didn't go to my used game store and it was on the shelf for $20. I mean, $20 is... I'm not going to say it's cheap, but I'm more comfortable losing $20 on a game I don't like compared to, $80 for a game I might not like. So, I've heard Xbox talk again. This is all rumors. So now in these last few weeks, I've heard Xbox is talking about adding a disk drive to Project Helix. Now they weren't going to originally, but now they're talking about it. I've also heard they're ramping up their backwards compatibility to include all previous generations of Xbox, which would just be insane. I understand there's licensing issues with some games, but it would just still be insane. And one last rumor I've heard that I think would really help Xbox is they have been talking about like implementing Steam, right? Or maybe implementing GOG. So you would have 3 different storage fronts to choose from. And I think even if Project Helix didn't have a disk drive, I think it would be a little bit less of a blow if you could still get games from Steam or GOG instead of just Xbox. Because then you can find your sales still, right? They're not forcing you to use their store. Sony has announced too, and this is going to hurt Sony in the long run, that their first-party games will no longer come to PC. And I think this is a mistake, but Xbox can capitalize on it if they continue to release games on Xbox and PC. This is where it will get difficult, though, because Sony has a rich history of exclusives and studios they own. Though it seems this generation, these studios have somewhat dropped the ball on releases and consistency, and I can say the same thing for Xbox. Naughty Dog, obviously you know them. Last of Us, Uncharted, love them. Insomniac Games with Spider-Man, Ratchet & Clank. Love Ratchet & Clank, never really gotten to Spider-Man. Guerrilla Games with Horizon, Killzone. Love both of those. Santa Monica with God of War. Love it. Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima and Yotai. Sorry if I mispronounced those. Love both of those. And Infamous. Love it. Polyphony with Gran Turismo. I love Gran Turismo. I probably sunk 1,000 hours into GT7 alone. I love that game. Team Adobe with Astrobot. I haven't played that one. Ben Studio with Days Gone and Siphon Filter. I love Days Gone. Wish it got a second one. Oh well. House Marquee with Returnal. I didn't really get into Returnal. Blue Point with Demon Souls. Not really a big Demon Souls player. Bungie with Destiny and Marathon. I should say Bungie with Marathon because they stopped support for Destiny 2. We'll see how much longer they are around for Marathon. I'm a big Marathon guy right now, and a lot of my channel is. And Media Molecule with Little Big Planet. I love Little Big Planet. So just looking at this list, guys, when I did transition to PlayStation, I got the Xbox One, and then eventually I bought a PS4 Pro. The exclusive has always brung me to PlayStation. I will admit I'm an Xbox guy, but PlayStation has always had the better exclusives, I think. But with their studios not releasing exclusives, and if they're not going to have a disc drive, what's the point? What are we waiting for? And really, what's the point of going to next generation? Am I the only one who feels like this generation hasn't taken off? Like, really? So Xbox 2, though, they have some heavy hitters. Let's be fair. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to believe it in my hearts of hearts, but 343 Studios with Halo. They have the Halo name. They have yet to make a good Halo game, though. I think we can all admit to that. The Coalition with Gears of War. Gears, I'm excited for E-Day. I really want to see how that plays out. But 4, 5, meh. Mojang, obviously, with Minecraft, dude. Minecraft is like one of the best games, right? Playground Games with Forza Horizon. All right. I mean, do I need to say more? Forza Horizon is just such an iconic game. Again, it's one of those racing games I've probably sunk hundreds of hours in. Rare with Sea of Thieves. I never got really into Sea of Thieves. Rare has some other pretty good games. I got the Rare collection. A lot of good games on there. Turn 10 with Forza Motorsport, although I believe Forza Motorsport is no longer, which I think is a mistake. Obsidian with Avowed and Outer Worlds. Now, Outer Worlds and Avowed, I think, are on the back burner. If I recall correctly, I believe Obsidian is working on a New Vegas. I always get this wrong. Bethesda. I have a hard time pronouncing it. With Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and Starfield. Now, this is one of those studios I feel like Asher Shawarma, and again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce that, is kicking them in the ass and like, hey, let's go. I want some games. I want to see some I want to see something. id Studio with Doom. Doom, I see the appeal in it. I'm not really a big, I don't know what you would call that game really. Like running gun type. I'm not really big into that. Machine Games with Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein was awesome. I wish they made some more. And then Arcane and ZeniMax. So I'm a little confused on Arcane because I thought they didn't exist anymore after they made Redfall, unless that was like Arcane Austin, a separate spinoff. But I don't really know what those two have been cooking. And they obviously have Activision Blizzard, which was, in my eyes, a mistake to purchase. Way too big of a purchase. But, they have games like World of Warcraft, which does insane numbers on PC. Diablo, which, it's kind of been in a tailspin. You either like it or you don't like the new games, really. And then Call of Duty. Oh, and Overwatch. Call of Duty is just, it's garbage, guys. Can we just admit that it's garbage? Like, every release is just getting worse and worse. So looking at this list again, I can tell you I've appreciated PlayStation Studio games way more than Xbox. But again, the future looks bleaker for PlayStation. The only upcoming exclusives that PlayStation has right now are Marvel's Wolverine and Phantom Blade Zero. Now, I am really into Marvel's Wolverine. That looks like a sick game. I can't wait to play it. Whereas Xbox, though, they have Gears of War Ide, which is going to be awesome. Clockwork Revolution, which, the trailer looks interesting. We'll see how it is. Fable, which is going to be awesome, but I believe that's coming to PlayStation eventually. And State of Decay 3. Now, I don't think that's going to be an Xbox exclusive anymore. I'm not sure because Xbox did drop them recently. So, just looking at that list, I'm more hyped to play Xbox than PlayStation. And again, with the recent rumors that Project Helix will support all previous gen games, this will give it a huge leg up on PlayStation, which again has always been lacking in backwards compatibility. Okay. Again, I'm sorry for my bad memes. I have to use the free stuff on Google. So how does this affect next gen, though? Well, I think if Xbox can come out with some solid hitters with their next gen console, I think that will help tremendously. The other thing that will help is Sony seems less likely to play nice with other storefronts than Microsoft is. And again, we've already talked about that. Microsoft has kind of mentioned, they want to implement Steam into their next home console. And if they implement Steam, why not implement GOG, right? Why not implement Epic? Try to bring in as much storefronts, I think, as you can. And I really think that'll help your console not only bring people to it, but retain those people. And then, if the talks are true again, so it sounds like they will support multiple storefronts, whereas Sony, they're announcing they will no longer release physical games. They will no longer have games on PC. So all you're going to have is the PlayStation Store on the PlayStation 6. And I think if Xbox is able to give more power to the players, even if it was an all-digital console, and when I say more power, I'm talking about having more than one storefront, I think this will give them a huge leg up over the PlayStation 6. But guys, to make a long video short, I believe all Xbox needs to win this next generation is quite literally a disk drive and support for other storefronts. And that's it. I think that if Xbox can pull this off, let's face it, guys. It sounds right now that Project Helix is Xbox's one last shot at the home consoles. And whether you hate them or love them, competition in this market is healthy, and competition is what we need. Because if Sony didn't have any competition, they're going to do things the way they want, right? And, they're facing so much backlash over not supporting discs anymore, and they don't care. So Xbox, just do what everyone's asking. Become the hero again. All right, put the past behind you, let it go, and I really think that you guys can come out on top with this next generation. But anyways, guys, let me know your comments and your thoughts in the section below, in the comment section below. And if you like these type of videos, please subscribe. My next video, well, I'm working on a few, but I think my next one coming out soon is why physical media is so important and why we should all care. But again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like these videos and stay tuned for the next one.